Joining us now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Welcome to Fox News Sunday, sir.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Shannon.
Let's start there where Ben left off. The eradication of Hamas versus bringing home the hostages. Can you have both?
Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive. In fact, they're mutually compatible, because the only thing that will get the hostages released is the thing that will defeat Hamas, which is a sustained military effort. It already got half the hostages released. It'll get the other half too. But I want to say one thing to your audience, which people don't realize. Victory is within reach. We've already destroyed 3/4 of the Hamas organized terrorist battalions. 3/4, 18 out of 24. We're not going to leave the other 6. It's like you leaving a quarter of ISIS in Iraq in place. And you say, well, they can have their little territory. It's okay. Obviously, ISIS would reestablish itself. Hamas, ISIS would reestablish itself too if we don't finish its last remaining bastion. At the same time, I agree with the U.S., and I've instructed the Army accordingly to give us a plan, a dual plan. One, to vacate the population, the civilian population, because we're not fighting them. We're fighting the terrorists. And secondly, to destroy those remaining battalions. Victory is within reach, and we should all strive for that common target to destroy Hamas, because that gets all the other objectives within our purview. It also gets something else. It gives us hope for the Middle East, hope for peace. You can't have that with Hamas remaining intact.
I wanted to dig into several of those things that you brought up, but let me start here. The president here, President Biden, has been very supportive. He says there is no daylight between you and him, but this is what he said Thursday night.
I'm of the view, as you know, that the conduct of the response in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, has been over the top.
And the Washington Post is reporting this morning, talking to several senior administration officials and advisors, saying that they no longer view you as a productive partner who can be influenced even in private, that Netanyahu has angered U.S. officials on several occasions in just the past few days. I want to get your reaction when you heard those words from the president, over the top, and have you spoken to him?
No, I've been speaking to him regularly, but I haven't spoken to him since he made those remarks. I don't know what he meant by that, but I can tell you where we are. Look, we were attacked in the worst attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust. That's that October 7th massacre was equivalent to 29 11s in one day, and the equivalent of 50,000 Americans slaughtered, burned, maimed, raped, beheaded, and 10,000 Americans taken hostage, including mothers and children. So what would America's response be? I'd say that it would be at least as strong as Israel's, and many Americans tell me we wouldn't flatten them. We would have turned them into dust. Well, we're proceeding, as John Spencer, a world-renowned military historian and the head of urban warfare at West Point, said, we're proceeding as no other army has on earth in taking precautions to prevent civilian casualties. We're putting flyers in there. We're calling on the cell phones Palestinian civilians, telling them to get out of harm's way. Hamas is trying to keep them in harm's way at gunpoint and often at gunfire. We are creating safe corridors. We're allowing humanitarian help to get to safe zones. So we're going out of our way to prevent those civilian casualties. I'd say that Israel has responded in a way that is responsible, but also determined. We have to maintain coolness of judgment, the right efforts to secure civilian exit, but at the same time, iron determination to wipe Hamas, the Hamas terrorist organization, off the face of this earth. And that's something we will do. We will do it, and we will do it responsibly.
Well, sir, that same Washington Post report, quoting again those unnamed sources and senior officials, said that they are casting doubt on exactly how much of Hamas you've taken out and will be able to take out. You talk about total victory. Is it realistic to think that you get every Hamas fighter? What about civilians who may sympathize with Hamas, who may be left in the wake and would give rebirth to it at some point? And what about the critics who say that this very aggressive posture you've taken militarily is potentially alienating those folks who may have otherwise been won over to your side of this conversation?
Well, I don't know how you could get these people to come to your side if you don't defeat Hamas. Hamas will continue, as pledged to carry out the massacres over and over and over again. But it's like asking in Nazi Germany, you know, you've completed 3/4 of the job in conquering Nazi Germany. You say, well, let's leave the last quarter because we have to go into Berlin or we have to go into Stuttgart or Munich or whatever. And if we leave them, it'll be fine. You know, the people will, if we don't leave them, if we go and finish the job, then the German people will never forgive you. Just ask yourself the other question. What if we leave Hamas in place? There is no hope for a better Middle East. There's no hope that we'll set back the Iran terror axis. In fact, they'll have an incredible victory. So we have to finish the job. I think all these people who are naysaying or saying we can't do it, they're the ones who said just 3 months ago, don't go into a ground offensive. You won't be able to go into Gaza. You won't be able to get rid of the Hamas strongholds in the hospitals without killing all the patients. They were all wrong. They also said you can't go into the tunnels. They're a terrible death trap. Our soldiers, our brave soldiers are in the tunnels. They're doing the job right now. And I think we have to finish the job. We can finish the job. Victory is within reach. And that's our goal, total victory. What does it mean? You didn't have to kill the last German soldier, but you defeated the Nazi regime. Nazis may be around, there may be neo-Nazis, but they don't rule Germany. We have to get Hamas out of there. We have to destroy its military infrastructure. We have to stop its governance over any territory. It's well within reach, and we're going to do it.
Okay, so let's talk about Rafah. You've told your military, got to evacuate that area. Critics of this say that hundreds of thousands, maybe more than 1 million people have evacuated from elsewhere in Gaza to that location. One former U.S. envoy saying these people have nowhere to go and no way to get there. So, again, you talk about total victory, but at what cost and where do you expect these people to go? Have the Egyptians said anything to you about this? Because they're publicly saying if those people start crossing the border, it potentially upends your peace agreements with Egypt.
We have cleared out and conquered and destroyed most of the Hamas terrorist infrastructure in the rest of the Gaza Strip. So now there's plenty of room north of Rafah for them to go to. And that's where we're going to direct them. And again, urge them and direct them to do so with flyers, with cell phones, and with safe corridors and other things. So we see things differently. We've managed to do it up to now. And this is the directive that I gave the Army right now. I think the people who are telling you, oh, you can't do it, you can't go into Rafah under any conditions, are basically saying, don't win, lose. And if we lose, everybody loses. You lose too, because this is a battle against the Iran terror axis. This is a battle of the forces of civilization against the worst forces of barbarism on the planet. We have to win, not only for our sake, but for the sake of our common civilization. And it just has to be, you just have to continue purposefully, methodically, and responsibly, and we're going to do it. And by the way, this position is not just mine. It's the people of Israel. People don't understand how united the people are, how brave and determined our soldiers are across the political spectrum. People understand that we have no choice but to win this war, because our very future, and in many ways the future of peace and prosperity in the Middle East depend on this. If we don't defeat Hamas, then the worst things will happen. If we defeat Hamas, then I think not only will we have peace and prosperity, I think the circle of peace will expand dramatically. I said that when we did the Abraham Accords. Before we did that, nobody believed me. We got 4 historic peace treaties. I'm telling you that now. We have a terrible future if we don't destroy Hamas. We have a brilliant future once we do, and we will.
Well, we know
soon.
We know the people of Israel are still very much grieving the events of October 7th and have great resolve. Prime Minister, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.